Judge Malcolm McBronson, a seasoned jurist of the Richmond Circuit Court, meticulously cultivated a public image of integrity and discipline throughout his 22-year career. At age 52, Judge McBronson resided in an affluent subdivision in Richmond's West End with his wife, Margaret Bronson, a 49-year-old real estate agent. Known as a strict disciplinarian, he often handed down maximum sentences for even minor offenses, earning respect from law enforcement and judicial peers. However, behind the facade of his public persona lay troubling contradictions. Court employees had long noticed peculiar behaviors. Sarah Martinez, a court clerk from 2015 to 2020, later testified that Judge McBronson frequently summoned female defendants for private discussions in his chambers, a breach of standard court protocols. Financial records later revealed the judge had also accepted gifts and favorable loans from local business owners whose cases he adjudicated. On February 3, 2020, Richmond police officer James Thompson stopped a car for a broken taillight. The driver, 18-year-old Zuri Wallace, a high school senior, was unable to produce a valid driver's license. Living in modest circumstances with her mother following her parents' separation, Zuri was grappling with financial hardships. Her case appeared before Judge McBronson on February 17, 2020. Security footage showed the judge watching Zuri closely during proceedings. After imposing a $500 fine and mandatory driver's education, McBronson ordered Zuri to stay behind to discuss payment arrangements. Security cameras later captured Zuri leaving the judge's chambers visibly distressed. Over the following months, McBronson contacted Zuri 31 times using a prepaid phone. Records revealed their encounters occurred at a Hampton Inn where McBronson rented a room under an alias. Hotel records documented 6 meetings between February and March 2020, during which Zuri appeared increasingly hesitant. By late March 2020, McBronson abruptly ended communication with Zuri via text, warning her not to contact him. However, Zuri was already 4 weeks pregnant. Medical records from April confirmed her pregnancy. Zuri chose not to disclose the father's identity, even to her mother, Sharon Wallace. Zuri gave birth to Malik Wallace on December 12, 2020. Hospital records listed only Zuri as the parent. As she struggled with motherhood and education, Zuri's life became increasingly difficult. By early 2022, her father, Rashad Wallace, began piecing together the connection between Malik's birth and Zuri's court appearance. In March 2022, Rashad confronted McBronson, who dismissed the matter. Rashad then hired a private investigator who uncovered McBronson's ongoing pattern of secretive behavior, including meetings with other young women at the same hotel. In late 2022, Zuri began receiving anonymous, threatening texts warning her to stop any further inquiries. These messages, traced to McBronson, grew more menacing. Zuri's behavior became increasingly erratic, and she eventually confronted the judge with evidence of their past relationship and Malik's paternity. She demanded financial support from Malik, threatening to expose him if he refused. On December 15, 2022, Zuri arranged to meet McBronson in a secluded area off Route 5. That night, Zuri and Malik were brutally murdered. Forensic evidence linked McBronson to the crime scene. DNA analysis confirmed his paternity of Malik, and physical evidence, including Malik's bracelet and fibers from his pajamas, further implicated the judge. The bodies were discovered weeks later by a hiker, prompting an intensive investigation. Surveillance footage, financial records, and forensic evidence painted a damning picture of premeditation and cover-up attempts by McBronson. McBronson was arrested on January 24, 2023. During his trial, the prosecution presented overwhelming evidence, including surveillance footage, DNA analysis, and Zuri's diary, which documented her fears and struggles. Witness testimonies, including those of Zuri's parents and McBronson's wife Margaret, highlighted the devastating impact of his actions. On July 12, 2023, faced with irrefutable evidence, McBronson pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of statutory rape to avoid the death penalty. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without parole, plus an additional 20 years. As McBronson was led away in chains, Sharon Wallace addressed him directly. "You didn't just kill my daughter and grandson, you killed our faith in justice, but now everyone knows what you really are." Her words became a powerful symbol of the case's impact on public trust in the judicial system. The trial and its impact. The trial of Commonwealth of Virginia versus Malcolm McBronson began on June 15, 2023, in Richmond Circuit Court. Due to overwhelming media interest, the proceedings were moved to the largest available courtroom, with overflow rooms for the public and press. Senior Judge William Marshall, brought in from Norfolk to ensure impartiality, presided over what would become one of Virginia's most notorious criminal trials. Lead prosecutor Catherine Martinez opened with a searing statement. "This case represents the darkest betrayal of public trust. A judge, sworn to uphold justice, instead preyed on a vulnerable young woman and ultimately committed murder to protect his reputation." The prosecution built a meticulous case over 3 weeks. Forensic evidence, digital records, and eyewitness testimony established a chilling timeline of manipulation, threats, and premeditated murder. The testimony of Zuri Wallace, Zuri's father, was particularly compelling. He recounted his suspicions, the private investigation he funded, and his deep regret for not acting sooner. "Everything will be okay soon. Malik will have a better future." Sharon Wallace, Zuri's mother, provided emotional testimony, revealing her discovery of Zuri's diary after her death. The diary, admitted as evidence, contained entries describing Zuri's growing fears of McBronson and her determination to provide Malik with a better life. One entry read, "Says he'll destroy everything if I tell. Says no one will believe me. But Malik deserves to know his father, deserves more than struggling while he sits in his big house pretending we don't exist." The prosecution's crime scene reconstruction expert detailed the violent nature of the murders, aligning forensic evidence with the timeline of events. Dr. Elena Rodriguez, the medical examiner, described the victim's last moments, including Malik's asphyxiation as he witnessed his mother's murder. The courtroom was visibly shaken, with jurors and spectators in tears. The turning point came when McBronson's wife, Margaret, testified. She described his controlling nature and secretive financial dealings. Her revelation about his behavior the night of the murders was damning. "Came home late, immediately showered, and burned his clothes in our fireplace. I knew then that something terrible had happened." The play-in sentencing. Facing insurmountable evidence and the possibility of the death penalty, McBronson agreed to a plea deal. On July 12, 2023, he pled guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of statutory rape. In exchange, prosecutors agreed not to seek capital punishment. The courtroom fell silent as McBronson, once a respected judge, stood before his peers in an orange jumpsuit to enter his plea. In his sentencing, Judge Marshall delivered a scathing rebuke. Mr. McBronson, you not only took 2 innocent lives, but betrayed the very principles of justice you swore to uphold. You used your position of authority to prey on a vulnerable young woman, then murdered her and your own child to protect your reputation. The court sentences you to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole for each count of murder, to run consecutively, plus 20 years for statutory rape. As McBronson was escorted from the courtroom, Sharon Wallace stood to address him one last time. You didn't just kill my daughter and grandson, you killed our faith in justice. But now, everyone knows what you really are. Her words, captured by courtroom cameras, became a rallying cry for accountability and reform. Aftermath. The case sent shockwaves through Virginia's legal and political systems. Public trust in the judiciary was severely shaken. Advocacy groups called for stricter oversight of judicial conduct and greater transparency in court proceedings. A scholarship fund was established in Zuri and Malik's memory, aimed at supporting young mothers pursuing education. Sharon and Rashad Wallace became vocal advocates for justice reform, speaking at events and sharing their story to raise awareness about abuses of power. The tragic tale of Judge McBronson, Zuri Wallace, and her young son Malik served as a grim reminder of the devastating consequences of unchecked authority and the need for vigilance in protecting the vulnerable. Their story, though rooted in pain, sparked vital conversations about justice, accountability, and hope for a more equitable system. Public reaction and systemic reforms. The Commonwealth of Virginia versus Malcolm McBronson case became a symbol of the potential for corruption within powerful institutions. Public outrage over the abuse of judicial authority led to widespread calls for accountability and systemic reform. Across Virginia, protests, town hall meetings, and public discussions demanded stronger safeguards to prevent such abuses. Several immediate changes followed the case. Judicial oversight reforms. The Virginia General Assembly passed legislation aimed at increasing transparency in judicial appointments and oversight. Judges were required to undergo regular evaluations by independent review boards with stricter enforcement of ethical guidelines. Enhanced protections for vulnerable parties. Courts implemented policies to prevent private meetings between judges and litigants, particularly young or vulnerable defendants. Surveillance and monitoring in judicial chambers became mandatory, ensuring accountability in all interactions. Whistleblower protections. Inspired by the courage of court employees like Sarah Martinez, who testified against McBronson, Virginia strengthened whistleblower protections for government and court staff. New laws provided anonymity and safeguards for those reporting misconduct. Community support initiatives. Nonprofit organizations and advocacy groups worked to create resources for young mothers like Zuri. Financial assistance, mental health services, and child care support were expanded statewide. Media and cultural impact. The case dominated headlines nationwide, with documentaries, podcasts, and investigative journalism exploring its complexities. Major media outlets like the New York Times and 60 Minutes examined the broader implications of unchecked power in the judiciary. Justice media amplified these discussions with hashtags like Justice for Zuri and Malik Deserved Better trending globally. Quote, books and dramatizations followed, aiming to capture the human tragedy behind the headlines. While some criticized the sensationalism, others argued these works kept the conversation about justice reform alive. Sharon and Rashad Wallace collaborated on a memoir titled For Zuri and Malik, A Family's Fight for Justice, which became a bestseller and a key text in understanding the personal toll of systemic failures. Personal legacies. Sharon Wallace. After the trial, Sharon dedicated her life to advocacy. She founded the Zuri and Malik Foundation, which provided scholarships and resources to single parents. Her tireless work earned her national recognition, including an invitation to speak before Congress on judicial reform. Richard Wallace. Rashad channeled his grief into activism, working closely with organizations to promote fatherhood programs and mentoring initiatives for at-risk youth. His meticulous investigation into Zuri's case became a blueprint for grassroots accountability efforts. Margaret Bronson. McBronson's wife filed for divorce shortly after his guilty plea. She became an outspoken advocate for victims of domestic and emotional abuse, sharing her experiences of manipulation and control within her marriage. Despite the stigma surrounding her association with McBronson, Margaret rebuilt her life and used her platform to support others. Lessons learned. The McBronson case became a case study in law schools and ethics courses, highlighting the dangers of concentrated power and the importance of integrity in public service. Advocates emphasized that while McBronson's actions were extreme, the conditions allowing such abuses were not unique. The case underscored the need for vigilance, transparency, and accountability in all levels of governance. A tragic legacy with hope for change. The murders of Zuri and Malik Wallace exposed profound flaws in the justice system, but also ignited meaningful reforms. Their story remains a stark reminder of the human cost of corruption, while their legacy inspires continued efforts toward equity, accountability, and compassion in society. Though justice was served in the courtroom, the true victory lies in the enduring impact of Zuri and Malik's memory, a catalyst for change that promises a brighter future for others in similar struggles. The ripple effect, nationwide changes. The case's notoriety quickly spread beyond Virginia, sparking national and even international discourse about power dynamics in the judicial system and the vulnerabilities of those caught within it. The McBronson scandal, as it was often called in the media, became a pivotal case study with far-reaching consequences in multiple areas. Judicial ethics and oversight. The scandal prompted nationwide reassessment of judicial oversight mechanisms. Several states introduced or strengthened reforms modeled after Virginia's post-trial legislation. Key initiatives included mandatory ethics training. Judges were required to complete annual ethics training, focusing on preventing abuse of power and recognizing implicit bias. Transparent docket reviews. Independent panels now audited judges' dockets, particularly for patterns of irregular or inappropriate behavior. Reporting channels. National hotlines were established to allow anonymous reporting of judicial misconduct, significantly increasing the number of complaints filed and investigated. Criminal justice reform. Beyond judicial oversight, the McBronson case highlighted broader failings in the criminal justice system. Advocates pushed for changes to better protect vulnerable defendants, including limiting fines and penalties for low-income individuals to avoid exploitative outcomes, increasing access to public defenders to ensure proper representation for all, especially minors, establishing advocacy programs for young defendants, pairing them with social workers or community mentors, support for young mothers and families. Zuri's tragic story drew attention to the struggles of single mothers and young parents. Several charitable organizations were inspired by her legacy, leading to expanded scholarships and grants for single mothers pursuing education, subsidized childcare programs for low-income families, mental health services tailored to the needs of young parents facing financial or emotional stress. Cultural reflections. The case resonated deeply in American culture, becoming a symbol of systemic injustice and the courage required to confront it. Artistic and cultural expressions explored the story from multiple angles. Documentaries and dramas. Netflix released a critically acclaimed documentary series titled The Judge's Shadow, which explored the hidden dynamics of the case, incorporating interviews with key players, including Sharon and Rashad Wallace. Podcasts, investigative podcasts such as Behind the Bench and Zuri's Voice, delved into the scandal, examining the warning signs that went unnoticed and what could have been done differently. Literature and film. A best-selling book titled Betrayed by Justice detailed the legal battle and personal struggles of the Wallace family. Hollywood also announced a feature film adaptation focusing on the trial, with proceeds pledged to organizations supporting young mothers. Rebuilding trust in the justice system. The McBronson scandal left a scar on public trust in the judiciary, but it also served as a wake-up call. Courts across the country took steps to rebuild confidence. Community engagement programs. Judges began participating in town halls and public forums to answer questions and foster transparency. Restorative justice initiatives. Some courts adopted restorative practices, allowing victims and families to have a voice in the justice process, ensuring accountability while promoting healing. Diversity in the judiciary. Efforts to diversify the bench gained momentum, with more women, people of color, and individuals from underprivileged backgrounds being appointed to judicial roles. The legacy of Zuri and Malik. In Richmond, a public park was renamed Malik's Meadow in honor of the young boy, complete with a playground and memorial plaque that reads, "A reminder of the resilience of love and the pursuit of justice." Zuri's name became synonymous with advocacy for young mothers. High schools and colleges began offering Zuri Wallace scholarships to students balancing education and parenthood. A new child care center in Richmond, built with donations from the community, was named Zuri and Malik's Haven. Conclusion. From tragedy to transformation. The story of Judge Malcolm McBronson, Zuri Wallace, and her son Malik is a heartbreaking testament to the destructive power of corruption and unchecked authority. But it is also a story of resilience, courage, and transformation. From the Wallace family's relentless pursuit of justice to the systemic changes inspired by their fight, this case left an indelible mark on the fabric of society. Though nothing can undo the harm caused, Zuri and Malik's legacy endures in every reform, every scholarship, and every effort to protect the vulnerable. Their story serves as a haunting reminder of what was lost, and a hopeful symbol of what can be achieved when a community unites to demand accountability and justice.